Well, and there's already some proof of concept pieces in place because while it's a slightly different issue, SAS was also working with the County of Los Angeles, and they're a little bit further along with a similar project to what we're doing. When they did a proof of concept for them and just screened, I believe, about 10% of their data, they found tens of millions of dollars in terms of gap, and it proved itself live. And the story there is essentially they had a return on investment that the system would pay for itself in the first 48 minutes from being up and running. So I'm hoping we're not quite that fruitful in terms of how big our problem is, but that was enough to show us that we believe that this is a real solution that's going to bring real return on investment and do that quickly.
Some of the biggest challenges is because we are looking at data sets from multiple organizations, both inside and outside of our agency. One challenge is just getting all of the information into a format that we can easily cross-match it, easily use all of the information in one place. So that's just one kind of technical challenge that we're working on. And another challenge is really what we call identity resolution. It's saying, okay, if somebody's registered with different agencies or with different businesses out there and they use slightly different names, how do we know it's really the same person? How do you match up things as simple as, so we do things by name match or use different identifying numbers, but a lot of it is things like, all right, do they have the same phone number? Do they have the same address? How can we know that these are really the same people or this is really the same business as in these two different formats? So that's a big technical challenge. And then beyond that is kind of what SAS is good at, which is the statistical analytics that just say, all right, this basically is like a credit score. So that this business has a high likelihood that there's a problem and this other one does not, and how we work that over time.
Really, yes, but I believe we're overcoming it. Mm-hmm. If you go back a number of years, there's always been at least some cooperation between departments within our state. We had access to one another's systems, we had access to one another's data, but by the same time, there almost was a competition thinking, well, if we find them and get the dollars first, that's better off for our agency, for our constituents, and it was almost a thought that there might be a competition. There's only so much you can squeeze out of this rock, so we better get to it first. And instead now we've come to look at it a little bit more comprehensively and to say, who is best to take the lead on this case? If we don't all care about this case, who does care about it? And you take this one. The next one, we may care about and you don't, so we'll take the lead on that one. And if we each, look out for one another's interests, then we're all better off at the end of the day. And along with that, we've actually been able to get some legislative changes to enable even greater data sharing, because there's some controls that happen at the federal level as well. And so we've really been knocking down those barriers in recent years. And I think at this point we have pretty good cooperation. Still occasionally it's kind of, the question, do I really care about this case or not? But typically we work through that and we're really getting there. And, we're starting to hear the same thing now at the federal level, where they're realizing the problem and wanting to tackle it and wanting to try and find out how some of the states like ours have been able to get through those challenges of, can you get everyone to come to the table and work together?
And one of the selling points in actually getting funding for this project was we said from the beginning that when we got results, we would share it with the other state taxing agencies. So that it's not just so that every agency doesn't have to buy the same thing over and over again, that we can share the results. And at this point, what we're doing, in the old days, it used to be if an auditor from one agency knew an auditor at another agency, they might pick up the phone and give them a call. Now we've automated all of that, so we automatically send our audit results to the other agencies when we're done, and they do the same thing for us, and it becomes a big part of our referral system. We also get a lot of referrals from the public and try and advertise our public referral systems as well, because it's often how we catch somebody, especially the bigger ones, is somebody turns them in. And that's part of the way that we do business. Well, at this point we haven't implemented it, but one of the things that we're doing to help design it is we're doing sessions where we have the end users sitting in the room with the developers and talking about that. So not just talking about what, part of it is doing the requirement setting, but part of it too is what's this going to look like. So we actually have sat down with the end users and developed screens. And so, a lot of this is going to look like web browsing. So you go to it, some of it is, okay, I want to know about this employer. You type in the name and it uses some algorithms that are very similar to some of the major search engines. And it's that same kind of search engine technology that we're going to utilize to bring up our results and then we're trying to create graphical displays that provide a lot of information very quickly, but in a very easy to use format. So use different graphical interfaces and things like, different kind of charts and graphs and things to make it as easy as possible for the staff.
For me, the selling point here is I could use it. And frankly, if the executives can figure out how to use it, the staff are going to be fine. And so that's really the way that we've approached things is, in fact, they're excited. And that's always interesting because, when new technology comes into play, typically there's that really rough period that might happen initially. And when people are resistant, they knew how to use the old systems. And in fact, what we're doing here is going down a route where it's just so good that everyone's immediately recognizing this is going to be easy to use, and the benefits for me, are from the first 2 clicks. The next up for us is really, we have so much data available in this area that we realize we can't get it all to play together in this first project. So ultimately we'll have a great system, we'll have a lot of pieces in there, but there's more yet to add. And so that will be sort of our next phase, is ensuring that we have the data sharing agreements in place with the right agencies, and we're able to add all of those pieces to the system. The second thing that we would be looking at is to really find a way to repeat this process for claims fraud, is do the same kind of thing with a comprehensive end-to-end solution that will help us do the detection for claims fraud, because we realize the problem exists everywhere. We're tackling the employer side first because it's part of a phased project we've been doing there, and because the numbers were higher in terms of what was out there and looking at the return on investment. But at the same time, we realize, if we don't manage to prevent the bad claims, you have money, we might be getting the money in the door from the premiums, but we're sending it right back out the door to the wrong people. Frame the story right. And really, because there's 2 ways in which this is important. One is that it's just fundamentally the right thing to do. And people can actually get behind it when they can all agree that government's finally doing the right thing. And so what's been so interesting is this is one area where our various stakeholders from business and labor, which normally don't agree on very much at all, have both been agreeing, please help deal with this, help deal with fraud, help deal with the underground economy. And so that's actually been a very important voice for us. And I think it's lining up that voice, finding the industries where it means so much to them that you can really get everyone to come to the table for you. The second piece is sell it on the return on investment. Our entire program brings in $8 for every dollar we spend on it. And every time more money's been added to it, we bring that same return on investment. So it becomes a positive economic driver that can actually drive taxes down, that can hold down rates for people, and really help make a difference there. And those have been a couple of the most important selling points that we've had.
I think fundamentally it's about fairness. And what happens, and like Carl mentioned, the business and labor folks lining up, is because really people that are not playing by the rules are driving up business costs. And for example, in the construction industry, where it's not only are they causing taxes to be higher, but they're causing other legitimate construction firms to lose bids because they can underbid them on a job. So in any industry where there's bidding for work, whether it's construction or information technology or any place where there's bidding, it becomes what we want to do is eliminate the competitive advantage of cheating and make it more expensive for the cheaters than for the people that are doing legitimate work. So at the end of the day, it's really about making sure that the jobs go to the people that are playing by the rules. And then, as Carl said, the other piece is just making sure that if we make a promise and say we're going to get a return when you invest in us, that we make sure that we are conservative in our estimates, but also that we make good on that return. And so that people can see over and over again that if you give us a little bit of money, we'll get a lot back, and that again will help drive down rates, it'll help drive down taxes.